Recording started.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming in here. My name is Lori Sanchez. I'm here with my colleague Tanya Lindstrom from the Centers of Excellence. We're sorry to say that we don't have as many fun, exciting slides as we just saw with our keynote speakers. Those were amazing presentations, but nonetheless, we thank you for being here. We're going to talk to you this morning about mobile media, workforce, and employment in California. But first, I'd like to tell you just a bit about where we're from. So the Centers of Excellence, we are a regional Centers of Excellence. We are an initiative of the Economic and Workforce Development Program through the California Community College Chancellor's Office. So as the research arm of the Economic Workforce and Development Program, our main client base are community colleges, and we provide regionalized labor market research for community college program decision making and resource allocation. I'll pause for just a second. Okay, so to this end, I mentioned the community colleges are our main client base. So what we seek to do with our research is inform community colleges and the workforce community through regional labor market research and data. We do this by connecting with business and industry, mainly because what we focus on are new and emerging industries. And so what we seek oftentimes is data that is not already established on new and emerging occupations. So in order to gain really informative information, we reach out to local business and industry and get their take on what's happening in these industries and the occupations that support them. And so through our research, our goal is to advance a region by strengthening partnerships with business and industry and education for economic competitiveness in an area. Prior to state budget cuts a couple years ago, we did have 10 Centers of Excellence that served the entire state. Currently we have 5 centers, and we're still servicing the majority of the state, as you can see here on our map. We do have 4 fully funded centers and 1 non-funded center that is in the that serves the greater Sacramento area. We also have 2 advanced research hubs, 1 in Northern California and 1 in Southern California. And now to get into more detail about our presentation on mobile media, I should
Good morning, everyone. How many of you are from California? So basically, almost all of you. And how many of you have heard of the Centers of Excellence? Have you actually seen our studies before? Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm Tanya Lindstrom, and I'm a regional director for the center in San Bernardino Community College District. I serve over 20 colleges in Southern California. And most of us do statewide research pertaining to emerging or growing trends. We look at workforce and try to deliver that information for community colleges to make decisions in regards to start a new program or apply for a grant and use that information in their grant application, for example. So one of the studies we looked at last year in 2011 was mobile media, and lots of presentation that we've heard yesterday and this morning really said that mobile is one of the big trends, and I'm sure all of you know that. And I mean, noticing that, we decided to launch on that study and look at specifically what does it mean in terms of workforce. What occupations are going to be in demand? What skills and knowledge are necessary? Are these transforming occupations, transforming workforce rather than new areas of labor. So for our study, we define mobile media as all of those technologies that are used to develop, integrate, and support mobile media websites and applications. And I don't really need to go through this slide very much, because just kind of noticing the trend and the evolution of the information and telecommunications technologies and the role that mobile technologies start to play really created an impetus for us to look at this area in more detail. So some of the information we pulled from secondary research showed that there's going to be, by 2014, for example, there's projected to be as many as 142 million mobile media users. This is really a crazy statistics. Mobile-ready websites have been seeing 2-year growth of over 2,000%. And that's incredible, right? Revenues from mobile media application sales are expected to expand to $30 billion in this year, 2012. And one of the quotes from IBM was that IT professionals expect more mobile software application development, and it will surpass application development in all other traditional areas. So we decided to look at the workforce, and some of our objectives were to collect data on current number and size of mobile media firms, to estimate growth in 6 mobile media occupations that we defined with the help of the industry experts. We looked at the level of difficulty that employers reported for in hiring those occupations. We also collected information on job postings online for those occupations that require mobile media usage and knowledge. We looked at the most important skills and surveyed employers about what they think is important to know for their workers. We asked industry about their preferences for education and training, and we looked at the community college side, all the programs that already exist and how you are responding to the demand. So we've identified about 1,220 firms with mobile media operations in the state of California. And we surveyed 400 of those firms. So about 30% response rate, which was pretty good for any research study. That was a good response rate. We've analyzed job postings, data for mobile media occupations in a 6-month range last year. And we've surveyed community college faculty and administrators who returned our surveys about their mobile media programs. So what I'm going to talk today about is I'll give you an overview of the employers, mobile media employers, and what we've learned about them. I'll talk about occupations and some of the statistics and data that we were able to compile and project. And I'll talk about needs and challenges that were reported by employers in regards to their mobile media workforce. And I'll talk about community college response and our recommended next steps. So when we were looking, like in any other labor market study, we really needed to drive down to traditional industry classification and see which industries are going to be hiring mobile media workers. We had a panel of experts who helped us have the industry knowledge and helped us define that. So what we came out with, there are 2 major industries that mobile media falls into: technology and advertising and marketing side. And this list of specific industries. They all have traditional mixed code classification code used to code industries. And this is where we found mobile media employment. when we surveyed those 400 firms in California, we also surveyed how many total employees they had. And based on that information, this chart shows you the size of a firm. So according to our study, there are 67%, basically 2/3 of all of the employers that we surveyed were small, from 0 to 24 employees. And about 14% were large firms, according to our definition, which is over 100 employees. We asked them about the type of mobile media services or products that they provide, and the top ones, not really surprisingly, were mobile media, web development, and mobile app development. Over 50% of employers reported providing that type of service. And multiple responses were allowed, so many companies do several of those things. The third one was also another big one, was integrating mobile media with related devices and technology. So one of those, like, kind of on the lower side, only 9% said they were manufacturing, distributing, or selling mobile devices. I can say right now, but they were categorized as other because there was really like just single or couple responses falling in that category. But I can look it up and get back to you later. Go ahead.
Is the full context of this study online?
Yes, and I'll show you where to find it. Mm-hmm.
What was that third one? Integrated?
Integrating mobile media with related devices and technology.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up, but
Then how would you guys integrating cell phone input with software? Oh, okay. Like enabling right. Yeah, anything that you're used to using is being able to do adapt to different. Having you adapted to it, seeing it on a tablet or getting input from a mobile device.
So that source of information we looked at is online postings. Right now there are several vendors who provide this information. They aggregate, basically they spider out to all of the online job sites and pull out only those jobs that you are looking for. So we were looking at mobile media jobs. We had kind of an algorithm developed to pull that information, and one of the keywords was mobile media and related keywords too. And we pulled all of the job postings in the 6 months from March to August 2011. And we had actual employer names and the region where they were posting those jobs. So these are the top 15 employers that buy the job postings. Now the disclaimer is some of this could be repetitive and duplicates, although the algorithm does allow to eliminate duplicates as much as possible. So we're pretty confident these are representative, but we also know that these are employers who post on their jobs online mostly. So I mean, there's that disclaimer you have to be aware of. Which is not surprising, right? Cybercoders was the biggest one on the list, and then Apple, Yahoo, all of the big ones. Qualcomm is the big one in San Diego area. And now I'm going to talk about the occupations. We identified 6 occupations that were relevant for community college level. And those occupations that all of those were, although it's not here, but when we asked employers about them, they had mobile media components in the question. So it were software engineers that work with mobile media, or computer support specialists that work with mobile media. project managers for mobile media projects, etc. So these are the 6 occupations: software engineers, computer support specialists, project managers, web developers, graphic designers or multimedia artists, and programmers and application developers. So on the left side of the slide, kind of with the yellow-greenish color, shows the numbers that we obtained from the employer surveys, and we extrapolated those numbers based on what we knew about the total population of mobile media employers. So it came out that for all of California, currently there are about 75,000 employees in these 6 occupations that have some function of their job has to do with mobile media. And then we asked about the employer projections for next year in 2012, what would be their need for these same occupations. And it came out that there's going to be about 12,600 new positions created in these occupations that require mobile media skills, a growth of over 16%.
Computer support specialist? Is that like call center folks?
No, these are kind of help desk support specialists that help.
They call in. That's what I call. Something's happening in the call center.
Right. It's like in any organization, they're going to be servicing your software, will help you resolve issues. Yeah. Or if you require a need in some basic training on how to use kind of their user support.
In your conversations with the vendors and the companies, did you address how acceptable or how reasonable they thought it was to take employment here with the 2-year degree? Did that come up as part of the conversation?
Yes, and it's coming up. We did ask them a question about degrees or what their preferences was towards what graduates need to have to obtain a job. So it's coming up. And on this side, so this last column shows those 6-month job postings data that we obtained from that software I was talking about earlier. It's really for comparison. You should look at that column and 12-month growth projected from the employer surveys. Most of them are consistent. We know that there are more job postings than the actual jobs. But in some cases, there were some discrepancies, like for computer support specialists. So one of the hypotheses we had, and we did not verify it because this was a really big survey rather than interviews, so we don't have that qualitative component of it, but this is really a good question for us to explore further. On computer support specialists, you see very low number of job postings. So one of this could be limitation of the algorithms when we were looking at that specific occupation and searching job postings for that. So it could be just simply an issue with the data. And the other could be that employers don't want to post for computer support specialists because there are lots of specialists available on the market, and they don't want to overwhelm the HR department with too many postings, which is also happening. But generally, there were over 8,000 job postings for mobile media-related jobs in California within a 6-month period last year. And this is the breakdown of job postings by region. Out of those 8,000 job postings in California, most of them were in Bay Area. Not surprisingly, right? Followed by Los Angeles and Orange County. I was actually surprised to see a pretty low number for Los Angeles and Orange County, but the employers there are they're numerous, but they're less. Their employment size is less compared to Bay Area. And the third one is Southern California, excluding LA Orange, which includes kind of the Eastern Los Angeles and San Diego. So, and most of those jobs are in San Diego.
Does that include the San Bernardino area?
Yes. And let me now talk about needs and challenges that employers reported in regards to those occupations we asked them about. We asked them how difficult it was for them to hire for these occupations, whether they experienced great difficulty, some difficulty, or no difficulty at all, or they didn't know. So the kind of the dark green and then green bars indicate the difficulty in general. The dark green is great difficulty and light green is some difficulty. So programmers and app developers were the toughest to hire for employers. Over almost 70% of employers reported that as being difficult. Computer support specialists, it really cannot explain that, but it came up high. Software engineers, which is another big one in high growth area too, so this one is really consistent. And this chart kind of combines the information we looked at previously. So it shows difficulty in hiring on this axis, and vertically it shows 12-month growth projected from our employer surveys. And the size of the bubble represents the current number of jobs in each of the occupations. So how large is that workforce? Go ahead.
Can you tell me the difference between a programmer and software engineer?
Well, we use, I don't have the definitions right in front of me, but we do have, these are corresponded with standard occupational codes, occupations. So I'm not sure because I'm not a specialist in IT. None of us really, when we do our labor market studies, we're not specialists, so we do defer to industry advisors, and they help us define the occupations. And there must have been a difference, but I have a draft report which is going to be coming out, and it's going to have more detailed information on that.
I don't know if I can help with this because working in the industry, I noticed that throughout the market, every time there is a programmer, you would not require, for example, bachelor's degree. So to be a software engineer, you would require a much more related to system analysis and analysis of the online development and things like that. So a developer, that programmer was just a systematically yes.
That would be my guess too.
Software engineer has more experience and programmers have a more experience.
The programmers just didn't crank the code out. They're getting tired, whereas the engineers are more the designers.
Thank you. I'm nervous to present this in front of a group of specialists, but thank you for your help.
Welcome to the human race.
Okay. And we actually asked them, employers, about the top skills which industry experts helped us define. And it's coming up for each occupation. We actually highlighted the top 4 skills. So maybe that will help us as we go along.
Did you get a sense that they were favoring hiring? And one of the questions that I have going forward with this is, if we isolate our perspective to California, my students can go to Minneapolis or Austin or DC also. Do they want to hire from within California, or do they go for national hiring? So what's their sense of, I want to hire from geographic locality, because there's some good reasons for that.
There is, we didn't ask that question, so I cannot really say to that,
Okay.
unfortunately. But that's a good qualitative question. From the conversations we had qualitatively, we didn't really raise that, but we know they hire from outside of California too.
I mean, you realize the numbers in the Central Valley are so low that you kind of want to tell your students, you need to leave wherever you're going to college, you need to leave to get a job. I don't know, that's probably not remarkable, but that's kind of what we tell our students in some cases.
And I think also they look for, I saw a panel of people who were hiring Noble, they look for people who have experience, but I think it's hard to get experience in this outside of Silicon County. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the country, but I think there's a lot of
Yes. Orange County.
The rest of the
Yeah.
country, I'm not sure how much Noble option is also there, and research trend.
Oh, I personally have a friend who is a talented software developer, and he lived in New York, and he moved to Silicon Valley just recently. I don't know whether he got any movement expenses, but probably. Okay, so, and this is to the point of the skills that would differentiate between the occupations. So programmers and app developers, the percentage in parentheses indicates whether they were thinking that that skill was important, whether it's of great importance or some importance. So together that constituted the percentage we put out. And all of these percentages, so these are the occupations, are going to be high. They're going to be in 80s and 90s, which just basically shows that we've done our homework really good, and we put, when we did our survey of employers, we actually hit the mark, and we gave them the skills that actually are of high importance to them for each of the occupations. So they're not going to be too much different, although they are ranked by the highest number. So ability to design an interface, ability to develop on more than one platform, testing mobile media software, and ability to develop database architecture. That was, and I think more emphasis here on the application development. Software engineers involved in mobile media, ability to work as part of a project team, kind of a soft skill came on top. Ability to develop a coding framework for a specification sheet. Ability to transform a project idea into a specification sheet. So I also think, now kind of recalling our discussions with industry experts, software engineers was one of the occupations which involved more interaction with the client. So going back to differentiation between the two, this would be wasn't something we considered for app developers, but for software engineers. Computer support specialist, one of the occupations that community colleges train directly for to understand mobile media. So the working knowledge of mobile device, hardware, and components, right? So those, to your question, what do? They do service mobile devices. Ability to explain technical procedures, troubleshooting, working knowledge of mobile device software, and ability to explain the type and cost of services. And really, this is more of an entry-level job. Web developers for mobile media. So this is where knowledge of the languages is important. And when we did talk to them from the interviews, not from the survey, they did say it doesn't really matter what language you know. I mean, it does if you work for one of the bigger companies, but for startups, for smaller companies, it's important that you've learned some type of language. And one of the basic ones, and not basic but foundational, so HTML, and they all agreed that these were really important. And this is because we had to start from somewhere, and there's a whole variety of languages, and experts helped us narrow it down, and this is what we asked, and it's really come out high. But if you disagree, please let me know.
Now, this is from the interviews, we're talking with the companies directly to find out what they want, or is this from the survey, or?
Yes, so we did interview them first to came up with a list of skills, and then the ranking, the percentages came from the survey of 400 employers.
What was the time period of the interviews? Last spring?
Last summer.
Last summer?
Yeah.
And HTML5 was the popular one?
Mhm.
For the studies?
Mhm.
It is now, just the time. So it's the big one.
The technology based on my JavaScript using, I mean, CSS is not a language.
Cascading stuff.
This is cascading technology, and it's artificial intelligence. I go to computer the last one, it says we need 93% need the ability to integrate applications with databases. I would think that then you would need knowledge of scripting, other scripting like SQL Server, advanced legal basic, things like that, other .NET programming stuff. That didn't appear on the knowledge bar.
We did not ask that, and this is foreign language to me.
But I think there isn't a standard application probably that you integrate that. Where it comes from the database and the technology.
But that's a big thing because a lot of people will have HTML5 and JavaScript background, but a lot of people don't have back-end software development knowledge. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
Yeah, but for example, in the county of Alameda, people at the UCE level, at the entry level, they were doing a lot of HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And then, if they had that knowledge, they were putting courses, the entry level people, they were putting courses to learn, for example, Visual Studio that was their platform to develop their .NET application.
They didn't say they know the backend system, they know how to integrate it.
Yeah,
API on the source.
yeah, so then the query, okay.
It's a query language.
Yeah,
Whatever language you're going to use. SQL.
Yeah, I think we should, on that line, we should really get a lot more information because for us, for example, we want to know exactly where we're going, because we want to be in the gutter. And I don't know if we are in the gutter.
Yeah.
No, the HTML5 JavaScript, I'm talking about that line. That is very important that we know exactly the detail of that.
What detail? I mean, that's what I've been hearing.
Well, I would like to know the platform, exactly what platform, what language, what operating system. I need to know that because that tells me what to do.
But most companies want cross-platform. They don't want to what are you talking about with Apple? 2 or number 4?
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? 2 or 4?
2.
Sure, but 5 things together with
2 and 4 also. It's integrated together.
So you want us to clarify this?
Yeah, very much.
There's query language.
And I think that this is
specific which languages
I mean, you should also realize that when we collect the quantitative data and we ask employers lots of questions, we have to collapse that and make them really to the point. We cannot ask the whole lot of information that's detailed. But, I mean, this is where your advisory boards are getting into play. You can come to them and say, well, this survey really showed us this is important. Can you, clarify that? What could it be in your specific region and your environment?
Sure. How do you 2/3 of employers surveyed are small companies? Does that add to the like so much diversity in the technology? Everybody using something. Sure.
Yes, and we're pretty confident that it actually represents the total population. The chart that I showed, the pie chart, that this is the way the industry is, and many of your students are going to go work for small companies.
I think a good point to emphasize here is the chart it's our natural want to drill down and decompose it and say, I want to give you HTML, I want to give you HTML5, and I want to give you PHP, but kind of what I'm thinking from this is a holistic goal that we want much more than the specific, unique, discrete part of it. So we're looking at good higher level skills like multi-platform, part of a project team, and integrating with the back end. That's what we see surfacing more and more. So that's it.
In the specific skill, I mean, specific technologies are changing all the time, so it doesn't matter. You know how that, yes, you've got a front end, you need some query language to go on the back end, and what the process is, and what are the main components of those languages that they done. You know, like SQL, but then you've got to jump to PHP, whatever true your idea.
And this is an interesting point, and when we were trying to create a survey that would be on target and ask, so one of the hypotheses we had, well, what if we just decompose this and say, well, soft skills are here, let's ask a separate question, and let's ask the technical question as a separate one. Technical skills, soft skills. And then we piloted that with employers, and that idea, and they did not like it. They said, well, you can't separate the two. You really need to look at the combination of them. And for like computer support specialists, for example, and software engineers, the soft skills came really high, and they really wanted that to be on the list when we did the survey. The project managers for mobile media-related projects. Again, the basic, really, the foundational project management skills came at the top. I'm not going to read them because you can all read.
They had any emphasis on PMI certification?
Didn't come up. It didn't come up in our kind of exploratory research that came into the survey. Of course, in the survey we didn't ask. And the last one is graphic designers and or multimedia artists. And then we asked a question about the preferred level of education for employers for each of the occupations. Quite an interesting. In some cases, it was a little bit discouraging when we looked at the results, because of course we provide information for community colleges. And we tried to narrow occupations for those where community colleges will hire. So some of the really high-level observations here, of course, computer support specialists came on top. This is kind of the user interface people. And so you see in the green area, the 12% said they needed a certificate, and 24% preferred an associate degree. So this is the only occupation that kind of came high there, but for most of the occupations, they prefer the bachelor's degree. Now, what's interesting here is a look at the kind of pretty high percentage for just high school diploma and no education. Just a combination of, for each of these occupations, there were some employers that said, well, no degree is required. And other employers said, well, bachelor's degree. Now, the bigger companies tend to prefer more degrees. Smaller companies tend to prefer less, and in some cases they don't really care, as long as someone has skills. Skills is really what they care about, not necessarily degrees. So graphic designers, so for community colleges, computer support specialists with mobile media skills, and graphic designers for mobile media came pretty high. I think that's where certificate and degree programs are important. For the rest of occupations, it's important to provide maybe foundational skills and move them into the 4-year program. And college response. So we call it college response. It's basically how are colleges responding to the need for mobile media employees, mobile media trained employees. So in certificates should be Santa Barbara, not Santa Barbara. Certificate programs exist right now only in 2 colleges. Santa Barbara City College was kind of in the forefront of everything. They created 3 certificate programs, which is really interesting because it's not necessarily aligned with where the demand is. And Cerro Costa Community College is for those who don't know, is a college up kind of north in San Bernardino. They're technically in Kern County, but they're really north, about 100 miles north of San Bernardino. So they're in a remote area, I would say, and they, as far as I know, they discontinued their mobile media, or put it on hold for now, their mobile media certificate. But Santa Barbara is the one who started it. Now we asked about those colleges, whether they had any courses, and this is the list of colleges that had something to do with mobile media, offered some type of courses. Golden West College in Orange County has quite a few, and they really, and I'll show you the planned programs, and they do plan to offer certificates. And OCCCD stands for North Orange County Community College District. The courses mainly, right, you can see concentrated in 2 areas, the Bay Area and Los Angeles Orange. And we asked about planned programs. These are the colleges, list of colleges and what they're planning on doing. Los Angeles State Technical College and Norco College have grant funds to create new programs in that area. Now these, okay, so disclaimer, right? These are the colleges that returned our surveys. We sent to all of the regional CTE deans, and those who are part of the regional consortia, and whoever responded, this is the information. So I do make a disclaimer, this might not be all of it.
We don't have.
Cindy, do you think, it seems to me that when we try to support mobile, the 3 things that support mobile, there are 3 things that support mobile. There's this, there's telecommunications, and then there's battery technology that supports. But it looks like there's something that struck me is, we don't have mobile without telecommunications or good battery technology. Did they bring up, are we missing an area here to say, who's developing the sparse telecommunications that support mobile? Who's supporting the high amperage, low weight battery that supports mobile?
On the industry side, you mean? We didn't really look into that area. Also looked on the more of a software development and website development. Yeah, but when we asked colleges, basically our broad question was, are you doing anything in mobile media in any of your programs? And these are the responses we received. So on the college side, we either didn't get any on the telecommunication side or battery development.
It's interesting that it doesn't look like people see HTML5, CSS, and mobile media, where I do think it is a question. I don't see any of those.
And it's one of the skills that employers identify as well.
When have you done this? Stefan, also when you did it?
It was September 2011.
Yeah, we're seeing like a data that.
Now, I'm going to show you our website, a screenshot in the end, and our report is in a draft form of this information.
So the questions that you asked the colleges were just what they had in terms of mobile, right? You didn't ask specifically like for HTML5 or anything like that?
Yes.
Because I know that a lot of the courses have been updated.
It was very broad so that we could capture as much as possible. So I know we need to wrap up. So So there is model curricula that we looked at. Since there are no associate degree in California devoted to this, we looked at something outside of the state. You can find this information, or you can just write down the name. It's Northwest Kansas Technical College has associate degree, and in Burlington, Vermont, there is a college who offers bachelor's degree. You can look in more detail later. And so the final thing is that our recommendations to community colleges based on the employer and community college response analysis were to develop, where appropriate, in the region where it is appropriate, to develop mobile media courses and certificates. Consider the courses necessary for upskilling the employees if companies do not offer that on-site, and this is something where community college could do and offer additional. And consider adding entrepreneurship or small business components if you're developing a mobile media certificate program, for example, because it is really, for startups, it's a very important skill set. Develop industry partnerships to stay relevant, right? Not to teach them languages that don't have any application anymore. Incorporate mobile media into existing programs. That's kind of our main emphasis. Is it's really an additional skill set added to what you already have in your web development courses. Give students like additional competitive edge. Maybe they're not going to go into mobile media, but just graphic designer, if you have graphic designer course in the arts and media and entertainment side of it, maybe suggest them taking a few courses in mobile media so that they can create their design, their graphics for mobile media apps, for example. This is where you can find the key findings document. The final hasn't been posted yet. It's in the final stages of editing, but the key findings from the employer survey you can find on this web page. This is what it looks like. Our website is coeccc.net/ICT. This ICT page contains all kinds of reports. It has the report that was done by the Centers of Excellence together with Mid-Pacific ICT Center, phase 1 of ICT, phase 2, and mobile media. So key findings is right here. And there's going to be reports coming out soon. That date is not relevant anymore. And the presentation will be posted. And thank you. And if you have more questions,